in the Purim spirit. And it appears that many of us are there already. Now, you will bear with me because of the fact that it's a wonderful evening with many good things and wonderful people. The only thing that I am missing is a voice. And I had a few late nights this past week, and as a result, my voice is not the way it should be. So you're going to have to bear with me. I have a mic indeed. So now let's talk about the Jewish people a little bit. And I have no doubt that many of you can provide for me a detailed list of the many Jewish comedians. I one time decided to look who I share a birthday with. And I realized that I think it was Richard Pryor, if I'm not mistaken, Woody Allen, Sarah Silverstein, Silverman. Okay. It sounds better if I make a mistake because you don't want me to be too familiar with her work.
Was this Jewish or
English, Sisters of Rabbi. Okay. So Jews and humor, in many ways, go together for some reason.
Yeah, melach from each other.
We melach. And I do also believe that when you are in a serious environment, things become much funnier. In other words, if a person is walking up to a podium and trips, it's funny if it's another person, right? But it's far more funny if it's Yom Kippur Ne'ilah and it's the rabbi, right? And it's the rabbi or Kol Nidrei night. Right? Things are quite unique when you are supposed to be serious. Things become much funnier. An example would be there's, I think he's called Mr. Bean in English.
Yes.
Roland Atkinson. I assume he's not Jewish. Never know. Not okay. Used to be. So in one of the clips, probably I saw it 20 years ago. One of the clips was him walking into a funeral, and he's sitting there making some mischief and trouble. And when they start the eulogy, he realizes that he's at the wrong funeral. Like he starts making his faces, and he realizes that there was a series of churches, and he walked into the wrong one. So he runs out, walks into the next church, and he sees the name of the person who they're actually eulogizing, and he goes, "Yes, the right person!" And he starts jumping up and down and pointing at the name and all smiles. Now that's funny because you don't expect that at a funeral. So now we Jews have something very serious to achieve. We carry a message that's very important. We have a responsibility, we value existence, we value life, and therefore humor really fits into the picture. Now, what I would like to share with you is the fact that the rabbis in the Talmud view humor as a great tool, a tool that not just could but must be used. And we'll start from a statement in the Talmud where the great early 4th century authority Rabbah tells us that he had a routine that before he would open a session to the rabbis, he would share a milta de bdichuta, a word of a joke. Meaning he understood human nature, that if you want to get people's attention, you start off with a joke, they're going to tune in. Once they're tuning in, you can move on to the lecture, and you're going to lose them throughout the lecture, obviously, but at least you grab them in the beginning. Humor as a tool. And there are several such statements in the Talmud that indicate that the rabbis actually had a sense of humor. One of my favorites is the story of Ula. Ula, again, 4th century, he arrives in the city of Pumpedita in Babylonia. Now, he wasn't originally from there, and he saw in the marketplace this gigantic basket of dates. He saw the dates, and they looked tempting, like nice, large dates. and he asked the merchant, how much do they cost? What would be the price for it? And they tell him a zuz, which is a very small currency. Now, he was amazed, and he said the following, you could purchase in Babylonia a whole basket full of honey, and Babylonians are not learning Torah. In other words, if you have the opportunity to sustain yourself with such wonderful goods, and you could buy them for so cheap, why not just work a little bit, buy these dates, eat dates, and study more Torah? So he was quite critical of the locals due to the fact that in the marketplace they could get such great value. Now, he ate those dates, and he enjoyed them, but that night, he had some major issues. And it appears that he spent the night in the outhouse. And when he came out, he told people, I am amazed that that the Babylonians learn any Torah if this is what they eat. Now, you tell me, is this not a rabbi with a sense of humor? Now, there are times that the rabbis want to convey a message, and they have magnificent stories. And there's a midrash, again, a very powerful midrash, the way I see it, that deals with inheritance. And the midrash shares with us that there was an individual that passed away, and they go to the lawyers, they open the documents, and it is noted there that Lo yeheh b'ni yoresh me'uma, my son shall not inherit anything ad sheyaseh shoteh, until he becomes a fool. My son should not inherit anything from this state until he becomes a fool. So they had no clue what exactly did this man have in mind. So they turned to two rabbis and they asked them to go visit another rabbi. So they send Rabbi Yossi, and they send him with Rabbi Shaul, and they send him to the great Rabbi Yehoshua, the son of Rabbi Akiva. Now, as they are approaching his house, they see from a distance. So again, you have two rabbis trying to clarify the meaning of this will. They are walking up to the house of Rabbi Yehoshua ben Karcha, and they see him, in the words of the Midrash, al yadav ve'al raglav, that he is crawling. They see from a distance the great rabbi crawling with a feather in his mouth, chasing his son. That's what they saw from a distance. Now, the two of them, when they saw this great sage acting like a lunatic, they did not know where to put themselves. And they tried to hide, and eventually they showed up, and they acted as if they did not see that absurd scene, but Rabbi Yehoshua knew very well that he was seen. They asked him the question, what would a person mean by writing in a document that my child should not inherit anything, ad sheyaseh shoteh? So here Rabbi Yehoshua ben Karcha responds, that's exactly what you saw. Because when we have children and entertain them, when we interact with children and deal with them, we become like complete fools, right? You ever make a baby laugh and make these ridiculous faces that if someone is filming and puts it on YouTube, it would not be a great honor for you, right? To deal the absurdity of dealing with kids. Let's face it, there's an absurdity of chasing them and crawling with them. But what we are being told here is that that is the purpose of existence, right? It's absurd. It is absurd indeed. But what the father wanted was not that his son should not take the monies and have a good life and an enjoyable life. But when he reaches that point of being a shoteh, being a fool, of dealing with children, that is when indeed you're going to need money. And boy, do you need at times money, right? To marry off a few kids. So that's what he's saying. Mikan, in other words, and the Midrash ends off, that when you have children, it is an act of mishtatehu. It's an act that, as you observe it, it is something that is indeed absurd. but absurdity is what we are about. God wants us to achieve this absurdity. Another message that was presented in the Talmud, and I'll share with you another one just to give you this idea of the Talmudic approach to humor. And it shares with us a story that has to do with lost in communication. How you had a certain Babylonian who made his way to Israel, marries a local woman, and there were different dialects of Aramaic. So the husband would ask for one thing and the wife would provide another thing. And we are told that at one point he is hungry and he asks for these 2 gourds. But kara in the dialect of Aramaic that was used in Israel actually meant 2 earthenware candles. So he's sitting there waiting for dinner, the Talmud tells us, and she walks up with these 2 earthenware candles and places it right in front of him. And he had enough, and he says to her, you know what? Go break them on the top of Bava, on the top of the doorpost. Now, there was a scholar next door by the name of Bava ben Buta. So the Talmud tells us that the wife listens to her husband, walks over next door, and breaks the candles, the earthenware candles, on the head of Bava. He asks for an explanation, and she shares with him, and he responds, well, you're a wonderful person for listening to your husband. So this is, again, the rabbis are trying to communicate. We could give a whole lecture on what that is about. However, humor is used in Talmudic literature, and it is used in Talmudic and yeshivot as well. I went to the yeshiva of Telz, and it is very common in many yeshivot that the 2 weeks leading to Purim, people have all kind of, they do shtick. What they did allow in Telz was to put up verses in the Bet Midrash that hint to some kind of issue or to some kind of problem that they dealt with during the year. So one of the legends, and this is a true story, went back to Telz in Cleveland, meaning I was in Telz in Chicago. It was a branch of the Cleveland Yeshiva. So in Cleveland, there was one of the heads of the yeshiva. His name was Rabbi Pesach Stein. Rav Pesach, that was his name. Now, he had a son, and the son looked exactly like the father. Same mannerism, same voice, same way of thinking. And the son, although he had his own name, but everyone called him Pesach Sheni. That's what his name. So it was Pesach and Pesach Sheni. Now, at one point the yeshiva was going through some financial difficulty, and they needed one of the heads of the yeshiva to do some fundraising. So the father, Rav Pesach, was traveling the country, and he was simply not seen in the yeshiva. That was the reality that existed at that time. Now, in the Talmud itself, there is a section that talks about the fact that we have a second Pesach. And on the second Pesach, you bring a Korban Pesach. However, there are differences between Pesach Rishon and Pesach Sheni. Because on Pesach Rishon, there is a prohibition of having chametz. And in the words of the Torah, Bal Yira'eh, chametz should not be seen, Bal Yimatzeh, should not be found. So the Talmud notes that that limitation applies to Pesach Rishon, not to Pesach Sheni. In the words of the Talmud, En ben Pesach Rishon le Pesach Sheni. The only difference is the Bali Ra'eh Bali Matzeh. This is a statement in the Talmud. Now, the students in the yeshiva wanted to communicate to everyone that there are 2 Pesachs, but one of them is always traveling and never seen. The other one is always here, the son. So they put up a big poster, En ben Pesach Rishon, the father, the Pesach Sheni, the son, Ela Bali Ra'eh Bali Matzeh, that the father is never found. So this was part of the tradition that they used in Telz. And throughout the year, whenever you are sitting and studying their Talmud, you're thinking in the back of your head, maybe one of these lines that we just read could perhaps connect to something that we could use on Purim. Now, the essence of our religion is actually bringing people together and caring about other people. It's fundamental. And when we enter into the Purim season, we think about the fact that Haman said about us that we are a nation that is mifurad, a nation that is not a unified entity. We try to unify and think about others who are in need. And humor is actually the best tool to go ahead and soothe situations, right? And there is a section in the Talmud, I think it's really a fundamental statement in Judaism. And Judaism needs it. I've interacted with many religious people throughout my life. And many of them are very, very serious people. Very serious. And again, they are transmitters. They feel a mission. But sometimes when you have to interact with a person that always carries a burden, there's something agitating. I think as a mature adult we could deal with it, but sometimes you have situations that for youth, for kids, this is not what they want of life. In other words, my father would always would talk about the fact that he had a concern about the generation after the Baal Tshuva movement, meaning there was a movement of many people returning to Judaism. But at times, the person who is the Baal Tshuva takes things very, very seriously and feels this responsibility to make up time. In other words, I was doing all kind of things until my mid-20s. I have to make up. I have to be very, very serious. My father's deep concern was, if you're going to build a home where there's intensity, where if you build a home where you don't find, in appreciation of what Judaism is about, the idea that you could find happiness through the study of text, right? The Hasidic Jew is going to be happy because he thinks of God. The Litvish Jew is going to be happy because he's going to go ahead and find a leniency in tradition itself and go ahead and eat something after putting time and effort to figure out why it's indeed kosher. This was the Litvish, the traditional Litvish approach, was to go ahead and use the thumb and say, and there was a Litvish saying that if you go ahead and you have a question on a piece of meat, let's say, and you study in depth the topic, and the bottom line is it's permissible, you merit to have two worlds. This world because you eat a piece of meat, the world to come because you study Torah, right? So that was the Litvish excitement of having that leniency. Now, the German Jews didn't have that, right? They didn't have humor either, but that's a different discussion. But the German Jews were critical. My mother loves sharing the story that at age 16, she had the opportunity of going, she was in Israel for 2 years from age 16 to 18. She had a lot of good stories from that period of time. But once she went to England to meet her grandmother, to meet her father's mother, and many in this room from that generation could relate to the idea of not really knowing grandparents. And for my mother, this was a very exciting moment because this was her only grandparent, and it was the only time she met her for a few days where she traveled to England. And my mother notes that she walked in and she had her shirt open, or the blouse open, and the grandmother turns and says, no, we're not Litvish here. We're not Litvish here. And she, like the old German style, it has to be extremely tight. That was the German approach. And you never know, that could be the blessing that was handed over to my mother, that she married a Litvish, a real Litvish Yid. There's an old rule from your generation that everyone is either Hungarian or Polish, that the ones you make jokes about are the ones that will land up that there will be marriages in the family. It's guaranteed, right? So this is something that is very, very true. I heard this from my parents, that in the Milevsky household in Uruguay, there were jokes about Hungarians and Yekis. So one son married the Yeke and the daughter married the Hungarian. That's how it works in Jewish tradition. Now, with the fact that there is with the burden that at times the religious leader carries, I love this specific section of the Talmud because it tells us everything about Judaism and the tool of humor. Now be careful with it. Don't laugh at others. Laugh at yourself. It always is good. There's a lot of room for that, especially in my case. But listen to this statement of the Talmud, that we have Rav Broka. Rav Broka is in a marketplace, and he meets Eliyahu Hanavi. Now, you meet Eliyahu Hanavi, you want to ask him a question. Eliyahu Hanavi perhaps knows the unknown, perhaps could predict the future. I would ask him for the lottery numbers. for tomorrow, but Rav Broka decides to ask him the following. The 649. How many million now?
60 for the lottery.
We could use that at this point. Now, yeah, different ways to get it. So, Eliyahu Hanavi, Rav Broka says to him, I need to ask you a question. And my question is, Ika Bahai Shuka, is there anyone in this market that is Bar Alma Da'ati, that has a portion and a big portion in the world to come? Meaning, he asks Eliyahu Hanavi, who is really righteous here? Yeah. Now this is not curiosity, but this Rav Broka wants to know, who do I try to emulate? Right? Who do I want to be like? Who should be my role model? Right? What kind of personality? So this is the question that Eliyahu Hanavi is asked. So Eliyahu Hanavi says to him, you see those two people sitting there? They are the ones that have a portion in the world to come. Now, he runs over and he asks them, Ma yuvdaichu, what do you do? What do you do for a living? Like, what do you do? What are your actions? Tell me about your good deeds. Here I have my ticket to the world to come by just figuring out what you guys are about. And their answer was, Inchi baduche anan. We are people who share jokes. We're badchanim. Badchanim. A badchan at a wedding? We are people who share jokes, right? If you remember the Muppets, I don't know if your generation ever watched the two fellows, who is it? The two people, the two old fellows that names Waldorf and start watching shows from the 50s. So they said, Inchi baduche anan. We share jokes. And listen carefully what they do with their sense of humor. When we see two people that have a fight, we go ahead and put effort into bringing them together through humor. When we see someone that is going through difficulty, we use humor to uplift their spirits. They are the ones that have a portion in the world to come. The tool of humor. The tool of taking a situation out. Again, we're not saying that everything in Judaism is light, but bring in the light, bring in things. Don't only walk around with this heavy attitude due to the fact that we have something very serious to achieve. Learn from these incredible individuals the message of Rav Broka. I think this is a very significant message about Judaism. Now, it's interesting that when as preparing for Purim. So you walk into an average Jewish home, there's talks about Shalach Manas, what we get, who you're going for the meal. It's been interesting for me to monitor my teenage boys in this generation. And I don't know if you want to know really what teenage boys, starting from age 13, 14, until they get over it, when they talk Purim, what are they thinking about? Drinking. It's a problem. I've mentioned several times that throughout our history, people that develop drinking problems, you could give credit to Purim, and Jews who develop gambling problems, you got to give credit to Hanukkah. And this is not just teenagers. There was a rabbi in Venice in the late 16th century, right? De Modena, who in his autobiography writes that I just love games of chance. And it started on a Hanukkah. And rabbis have dealt with. This was actually a problem. Jews enjoyed the thrill. It seems to be there's a thrill in gambling, right? I personally believe that if you have this Yetzer Hara to go ahead and go to gamble, and again, I'm not talking about one or two times when you happen to be somewhere, but if you have it, there is nothing better to purge that feeling than walking through a casino. In other words, the pictures and the images you will get of what casino evenings are, you'll see these glamorous people that all look young and beautiful and happy. But then when you walk through a casino one time, right? I did it, I think it was in Mississippi, of all places. And these are people that walked out of Subway, right, or out of McDonald's and sat there with this big plastic cup with coins and just drop it in, and that's their exercise for the day, pulling down a lever. You see that and you ask yourself, are these the type of people that I want to go ahead and associate with? This is my take regarding gambling, but there was a problem with Jews and gambling. Drinking is a Purim problem. It is actually a problem, and it has to be addressed. And the message I give over to my children, and again, as you could imagine, right, I don't know if it goes in one ear, but if it does indeed go in one ear, it obviously goes out the other. That there was a statement made about 680 years ago by a very wise rabbi. And he talks about the drinking in Purim, right? And there are those that are going to start sharing with you text that it's a statement in the Talmud, Ad lo yada, right? And literally, which perhaps what the text is telling us, that you get so drunk that you don't know the difference between Baruch, Mordechai, and Arur Haman, right? In Telz, which had a German flavor to its yeshiva, the Rosh Yeshiva would get up every year before Purim and say the following: if any of you are extremely religious and are concerned that you have a halachic obligation to go ahead and drink, don't drink, and I take your sins upon me. There's humor there too, right? The sin of not drinking, don't worry about it. It's all on me. I take full responsibility in the world to come. This was a very powerful message that was made in the yeshiva I went to. But kids enjoy it, so this is the message I give from a work called Orchot Chaim. And in the work of Orchot Chaim about 700 years ago, he says the following: human nature is such that there are some people that when there are social gatherings with people that they perhaps do not enjoy the most, they're a little bit on an edge. You know, there's this level of discomfort. How do you remove that discomfort? What? Shot glass, right? So 1 ounce hopefully is enough, or half an ounce, and I'm talking about beer or wine, not heavy liquor. So he says the following: you know what Purim is really about? Sheishteh, a person should drink yoter melimudo, more than he drinks on a regular day. So hopefully on a regular day it's close to 0. And on Purim, if you drink 1/3 of an ounce of schnapps, or if you drink, you want to go with wine, 3 ounces of wine, mission accomplished. Purim, you drink more than you usually drink. Kedei, but what's the goal? What's the goal? Kedei sheyarbe lismoach, that you should be happy, velesameach evyonim, and bring happiness to others. That you remove that natural edge that you have from within yourself, and then you are able to touch others, to interact with others, share something cute with them, share with them at Dvar Torah, bring happiness to others. V'inachem otam, and give comfort to others, elevate their spirits. V'yidaber al libam, v'zoti simcha shlema. Do you want to know what real happiness is? Real happiness is not when I think about how I could feel, how I could use it as a tool to bring happiness to others. This is the statement that I read, and this is a very powerful statement. So for the young teenager is walking around saying, like, Purim, wonderful time, you get stoned. The message is absolutely not. It has nothing to do with that. Purim is a time that you have to think about, how can I bring happiness to others? And there are people that need it. We all know that. That when we talk about the acts of kindness and chesed is not just financial, but in many cases, it is far greater chesed when you are taking care of an emotional need of another person. Someone that needs that call, right? Someone that needs that little bit of support. And if you could go ahead and loosen that little bit of tightness that you have with that little shot, that is the simcha of Purim. A statement made 700 years ago, right, about what it's all about. And if I look at humor, it is a tool indeed to bring people together, right? Late night shows, not that we watch, but here and there you'll see a clip. It became very politicized. I think you would agree with that. That the late night show, who are the big names? It's no longer Letterman and Carson and Leno. But Vayokom Melech Chadash, there's a new generation, there's Jimmy Kimmel, and Colbert, right? Colbert, they're not even funny, perhaps. It is all politics. Are they? Who? Carson Olav Shalom. Yes, Carson Olav Shalom. Once you talk, we have to remember the Gdolim from previous generation. Today we lost one of them, Billy Graham. You've heard of Billy Graham, one of the great preachers. Right?
He died.
Yeah, he died today. 99, not bad. Not bad. Yeah. Sulangiar is gone. Yeah, now he's where he wants to be. So the late night shows and the jokes are obviously politicized, but the concept of sitting down and bringing people together as a society, and it's a time I can mention Arthur Tenenbaum Olav Shalom. He would walk into shul, and I think every Shabbos he would come in with a joke. He would come in with one of these printed jokes. Sometimes he would share it with me, other times not, and I assumed that he would go through some kind of a procedure of censorship to determine if it's one he can share with the rabbi or not. But the godless or the greatness of a person that walks into shul, and he was there always shining, and it was a few weeks after one of his mini strokes, the man is shining, the man is saying, don't call me a nice guy. Humor, and all of it was humor. But he was a person that concerned himself about others, brought people together. That is what it's about, the tool of humor. And that's how we should walk into Purim. It should be a time that if we have to go ahead and fight our enemies, when the Jewish people are unified, then we are a protected nation, right? It should be a little bit scary now if you follow the news in Israel, right? That on the one hand, we are talking about Iranian strongholds or a foothold or whatever you want to call it in Syria. Yeah. And what is the media talking about? About champagne and cigars. So I'm not taking the fact that this is what's being covered at or this is what's occurring either or, it is very unsettling for us. This is what we should be doing at this point. It is very unsettling because as a nation we know we unify, united we stand. That's something that's very true about the people of Israel. And Purim and humor and using these tools to make things lighter, right? Laugh it out. How many times you can have situations where you walk in with all the tension in the world, keep it light. That is how you bring people together, and that is the true, in the words of the Orchot Chaim, that is the true Simchat Purim. So that's my blessing to everyone here. And we merit a wonderful Purim, a meaningful one, where we think about those who do need it, who need the call or the gift or the attention. And as a nation, we unify, we inspire others to unify, and we are to achieve our mission in the world. Thank you so much for listening, and everyone have a good evening and a Purim Sameach. Thank you.